The young girl Chio Ibai is invincible in the boxing ring. Who would have thought that she, who usually acts like a brother to boys, would embark on a heart-racing romantic journey because of a game? All the romance begins with a magical advertisement. On this day, Chio Ibai was scrolling through her phone when an ad suddenly popped up. It claimed to offer a free lottery where the prize was choosing any handsome guy as a boyfriend. At the boxing training ground, Chio Ibai hears someone calling her to train, but not using her full name, just calling her Chio I. She sternly corrects them, but they continue to do as they please. Chio Ibai, annoyed, jumps into the ring. She swiftly throws a straight punch. A girl watching nearby compliments her cool moves, thinking she must be popular. A boy next to her tells the girl, although Chio Ibai is the star of the boxing club, she can only be a bro, because having her as a girlfriend would be too scary. Perhaps their voices were too loud. Chio Ibai heard her movements become faster and faster. Left hook, right hook, leaving her opponent defenseless. Finally, with a heavy punch, she knocks her opponent to the ground. Unable to get up, she coolly jumps out of the ring, declaring today's training over. The onlookers' comments make Chio Ibai involuntarily recall her first love. A year ago, she had confessed to a boy she liked on the basketball court. That guy said he always saw her as a brother and even thought she was playing a prank. He said maybe people around were waiting to laugh at them. At that moment, Chio Ibai heard the sound of her heart breaking. Since then, Chio Ibai hasn't cared much about men. Now seeing this lottery ad, she thinks it's mocking her single status, so she holds the phone far away and turns her head. Unexpectedly, her thumb accidentally presses the lottery button. Even more surprisingly, she wins. The phone immediately rings, prompting her to go downstairs to sign for the prize. Chio Ibai runs downstairs. Sure enough, there's a delivery box. She opens it, finding a bracelet inside. Curious, she puts on the bracelet. Suddenly, a screen appears in front of her. A voice congratulates her on becoming the 250th player. Chio Ibai panics a bit, asking the bracelet to be quieter to avoid embarrassment if others hear. The bracelet tells her that only she can hear the voice and see the screen. It introduces itself as a 7, capable of assisting her in the game to pursue her favorite character. Chio Ibai thought she'd get a boyfriend directly. A 7 tells her that the pursuit depends on her. Chio Ibai's curiosity is piqued, and she starts to try the game. She touches the screen, blindly selects a target. A 7 tells her to go to the park behind the school mountain immediately. Though confused, she obediently runs towards the mountain. The mountain has high steps with lush trees on both sides. Chio Ibai hesitates for a moment, but still strives to climb up. There are too many steps. Finally, exhausted to the point of using both hands and feet, she reaches the top. Chio Ibai stands in the park's pavilion, looking out. Below, buildings stand in rows. As evening approaches, many homes have already lit up. A gentle breeze blows, making Chio Ibai feel very comfortable. Just as she's enjoying the moment, the screen lights up again. It asks her to choose between staying until dark or turning back immediately. Seeing that it's about to get dark, she chooses to stay until nightfall. However, she completely fails to notice a boy who has climbed up the steps and is standing behind her. Chio Ibai holds the railing, fully enjoying the view below the mountain. She keeps making exclamations of admiration, perhaps too excited. She grips the railing with both hands, feet off the ground, leaning outward. At this moment, she hears a 7's noisy sound in her ear. She instantly loses balance, her hands suddenly grasping at air. Just as she's about to fall down the mountain, she screams in fear. At that moment, a strong hand from behind grabs her around the waist. The screen lights up in front of Chio Ibai again. The romantic encounter has ended, asking if she wants to officially start the game. She instinctively presses the start button. A 7's voice comes to her ear again, telling her to quickly go down the mountain. She turns to look at the handsome guy who helped her, greets him with bro, says thanks, and then quickly runs down the mountain, leaving the handsome guy completely bewildered. Back at the dorm, a 7 informs her that her score is too low, not reaching the level for pursuit. Chio Ibai feels deflated and wronged. If a 7 can't help her, what use is it? She prepares to take off the bracelet. A 7 tells her not to rush. It can help her become excellent, and then she can choose any boyfriend she wants. Chio Ibai is a bit skeptical, but a 7 tells her that the goal can be achieved in just 2 months. So Chio Ibai follows a 7's requirements. First, she changes her appearance. She goes to a hair salon and gets a new hairstyle that suits her. Then she shops for clothes that fit her style. To become more excellent, she goes to the library to read. A 7 nags her from time to time, urging her to read seriously. She's most interested in sports and body shaping, but the bland diet immediately makes her lose enthusiasm for exercise. Finally, a 7 tells her that makeup is also important. She borrows a bunch of makeup products and starts learning. She almost pokes her eye out while doing eye makeup. In a fit of anger, she takes off the bracelet. No matter how much a 7 tries to persuade her, she doesn't want to continue this game. Her roommate notices her strange behavior lately, buying clothes and learning makeup. Could she be in love? Chio Ibai runs to the sports field. While running, she's frustrated that she can't do anything well. She thinks A7 is a broken system, arranging things she can't do. Maybe it's better not to have a boyfriend. But she's also a young girl. Of course she wants sweet romance. She runs while conflicted, talking to herself like a madwoman. Finally, Chio Ibai runs until she's exhausted, collapsing on the sports field. A boy also running on the field finds her behavior very strange. He's been observing her for a while. Seeing her collapsed on the field, he walks over and asks what's wrong. Chio Ibai feels very embarrassed. To save face, she rolls over, lying face up on the field, claiming she's just exercising. The boy advises her to go back soon, as curfew time is approaching. Chio Ibai watches the boy leave. She quickly gets up and runs towards the dorm. She forcefully pushes open the door. Her roommate thinks something happened. She says it's nothing, just exercise. Seeing the bracelet on the table, Chio Ibai puts it back on. She feels she can complete the game. A 7 also apologizes for arranging too many courses earlier. It lets her choose just one from high, medium, or low-level courses. Summer vacation has started, lasting exactly 2 months. So Chio Ibai chooses the 2-month advance. She complains to A7 that she could have gone home to relax, being a little princess with food and clothes ready. Now, to study the advanced course, she can only stay at her sister's house, eat takeout for 2 months, and do her own laundry. Just thinking about it makes her feel wronged. The course schedule is very tight. The first step is to go to the library to read in the morning. In the afternoon, she needs to learn some talents, such as learning tea ceremony, cooking, makeup, and the like. She must persist with exercise in the evening. 2 months will pass quickly. A 7 praises Chio Ibai for persisting well. Chio Ibai feels that this advanced course isn't too difficult. She just doesn't understand why a 7 requires her to sit in a fixed seat at the library and run on a fixed route. A 7 tells her this is paving the way for her. She thinks while running, still not knowing a 7's purpose for this arrangement. Suddenly, a voice sounds in her ear. She stumbles and falls to the ground. A boy comes over to help her up, asking if she's okay. She looks up with delight, seeing a handsome boy with clear features. She was actually fine, but the handsome boy asks if her foot is injured. Before she can answer, a noise rings in her ear, hurting it. Her foot is sprained. The handsome boy quickly calls another boy nearby to help. Chio Ibai looks up and realizes it's him. The 2 boys support Chio Ibai as they walk towards the community hospital. Maybe because she's too short, her feet leave the ground, making nearby children think she's being kidnapped. They place Chio Ibai on a bench at the hospital, then go to register. This boy called Dongxing is the one who saw her lying on the field before. Just as she starts to feel attracted, a 7 hints that he wouldn't be interested in her at all. She angrily tells a 7 to shut up. She stares at Dongxing disdainfully, thinking what's so great about him. Dongxing also looks at her, scratching his head in confusion. He remembers seeing this girl on the field before. The boy and Dongxing take Chio Ibai to her dorm entrance. When parting, the boy says see you at school. Chio Ibai is a bit confused, wondering if they're from the same school. On the way, Dongxing asks the boy if he knows this girl. The boy replies that he saw her at the boxing gym when school started. And for these 2 months, rain or shine, this girl has been running in the neighborhood. She's quite pretty, the boy says enthusiastically. Suddenly, he gets slapped. He looks at Dongxing with a shocked expression. Dongxing says there was a mosquito on his face. Then he asks the boy, when the girl runs, does she flail her arms and legs? The boy rubs the back of his head and looks at Dongxing strangely. He chuckles secretly and says it's nothing. The 2-month course ends. A 7 tells Chio Ibai she can start her strategy now. It recommends places to meet the target, the park, library, or school. Chio Ibai chooses the school. A7 tells Chio Ibai to bring a cup of 60-degree water to school, but it must not be boiling. At school, Chio Ibai notices new students are gradually arriving to register. She sees a boy carrying a skateboard in front of her. His back view looks familiar. She's hesitating whether to catch up and say hello. A7 reminds her she now has two choices: pour the hot water on the boy or on herself. After hesitating for a long time, Chio Ibai chooses to pour it on the boy. She opens the cup lid, preparing to splash the water on the boy's back. However, as she opens the lid, the boy suddenly stops. In her panic, Chio Ibai turns the cup towards herself. The hot water instantly splashes on her face. She lets out a loud cry. The boy turns around. He quickly puts down his skateboard and scoops her up. He rushes towards a water source. He directly puts Chio Ibai's head under a faucet and starts rinsing. Chio Ibai can't open her eyes due to the water. She covers the faucet with both hands, changing the water direction towards the boy's face. Caught off guard, the boy loosens his grip and slips. He falls to the ground, and Chio Ibai falls heavily as well. Her feet land right on the boy's face. The boy cries out in pain. Chio Ibai quickly moves her feet away and apologizes to the boy. They both sit up and look at each other. Chio Ibai's makeup is smeared, making her look like a little cat. There are clear footprints on the boy's face, and his nose is bleeding. Seeing each other's disheveled state, they both start laughing. The boy takes out a tissue and hands it to Chio Ibai to wipe her face. At this moment, Chio Ibai hears A7's reminder. She now has three choices: take the tissue and help wipe the boy's face, let the boy wipe her face, or throw away the tissue. Chio Ibai takes the tissue from the boy. Immediately, she hears A7's voice telling her to throw it away. Chio Ibai obediently discards the tissue. Then, she playfully punches the boy's chest lightly, saying that one tissue wouldn't dry them anyway, and in this hot summer, they'll dry quickly in the sun. The boy takes off his jacket. He gently places it on Chio Ibai's head, telling her to wipe herself. He indicates that one can catch a cold even in summer. A flash of embarrassment crosses Chio Ibai's face. She hurriedly expresses her gratitude. The boy reaches out his hand and gently pulls Chio Ibai up from the ground, preparing to leave. A7 prompts Chio Ibai to ask for contact information. She finally realizes. She hurriedly asks him to add her on WeChat to return the clothes later. At 8 p.m., after washing and drying the clothes, A7 urges Chio Ibai to contact the boy quickly. Chio Ibai obediently sends a message introducing herself. She learns that his name is Guhu. Guhu playfully calls her Chio Ibai. Not to be outdone, she replies with classmate Guhu. They meet at the bottom of the dormitory building. Chio Ibai notices Guhu holding a skateboard and shows interest, so he agrees to teach her skateboarding. They go to the playground. The various skateboarding tricks of several young people on the field open Chio Ibai's eyes, leaving her in constant amazement. Then, Guhu carefully guides Chio Ibai to stand on the skateboard, slowly letting go. He encourages her to push off hard and glide forward. Chio Ibai quickly grasps the technique. She starts skateboarding smoothly. Secretly proud, she thinks her athletic talent is too strong. Just as Chio Ibai is immersed in it, A7's voice sounds in her ear again. She sways and falls off the skateboard. Guhu quickly runs over to help her sit up. He gently taps her head with his fist, asking if she hit her head. Chio Ibai, somewhat angry, punches Guhu in the face. Guhu stands up, telling Chio Ibai to wait while he goes to buy medicine for her. Chio Ibai watches Guhu leave, rubbing her sore knee. At this moment, a boy walks over and asks if her leg is better. She looks up and realizes it's Dongxing. But Dongxing now looks very different from before. He's wearing a headband, holding a bottle of drink, and dressed in sportswear. After saying this, Dongxing turns and leaves, drinking as he walks. Chio Ibai feels a bit dejected. She asks A7 if she really can't find a boyfriend. A7 encourages her, saying she can because her strategy performance is still excellent. Chio Ibai points at the bracelet, warning A7 not to be so verbose. She's almost annoyed to death. Just then, Guhu returns with the medicine. He asks Chio Ibai where she's hurt. Chio Ibai touches the back of her head, but seeing her thick hair at the back of her head, Guhu is a bit perplexed. He simply parts Chiyo Ibai's hair at the forehead, sticks the plaster on her forehead, mumbling that this plaster can penetrate through, so her back of the head won't hurt anymore. Chiyo Ibai tries to endure, feeling utterly speechless about such a straight guy. At this moment, another boy walks over, asking Guhu if he's seen Dongxing. When the boy sees Chiyo Ibai, he asks if she's Guhu's girlfriend. Guhu denies it and introduces Chiyo Ibai. This is the owner of the skateboard club, named Zhamao. Zhamao says he already knows Chiyo Ibai, the tyrant of the boxing club, very famous. He even teases Guhu, saying he managed to hook up with a senior, and they should all be careful for their lives now. Then he turns to find Dongxing. Chiyo Ibai feels a bit angry. Guhu strokes his head, comforting him that Zhamao just doesn't know how to talk, but he's actually not a bad person. Besides, Zhamao is praising him for being awesome and famous, so Chiyo Ibai shouldn't be upset. Chiyo Ibai looks at Guhu, feeling somewhat touched. Guhu strokes his head again, comforting him that everyone likes to be brothers with the pretty Chiyo I. Chiyo Ibai's mind instantly collapses. Brothers? Who wants to be brothers with you guys? He feels a 7 is playing him. Chiyo Ibai crouches down, picks up the bracelet, and prepares to leave. Guhu thinks it's getting late and wants to walk him back. Actually, Guhu had long known that Chiyo Ibai was a boxing tyrant that no one dared to pursue, so he nodded in agreement. As they were talking, an empty can flew over and hit Chiyo Ibai on the back of his head. Chiyo Ibai is furious, loudly demanding to know who did it. On the skateboard training platform, Zhamao scolds Dongxing for littering. Dongxing is indifferent, saying his hand just slipped. Back in the dorm, Chiyo Ibai tears off the plaster on his head. That Guhu actually put the plaster on his forehead. What a weirdo. Suddenly, a little boy jumps out of the bracelet on the table. He says that the water boy is attentive and takes good care of people, which is quite nice. Chiyo Ibai is startled and asks confusedly if he's a 7. The little boy nods, looking at a 7 floating in midair. Chiyo Ibai is somewhat incredulous. The other mocks him for being inexperienced and tells him that only he can see him. But Chiyo Ibai angrily states that he doesn't want to see him at all. A 7 realizes he's still in a bad mood, feeling a bit wronged about being thrown on the ground, and then having to comfort him. Chiyo Ibai plans to give up on this game, because he can't find a boyfriend at all. Seeing his firm attitude, a 7 agrees but asks him to pay a usage fee of over 600,000. Chiyo Ibai is very shocked. Why does it cost so much? Wasn't this game free? A 7 tells him it's free during the trial period. But now that the strategy has officially begun, if he quits midway, he has to pay the usage fee. Chiyo Ibai has no choice but to put the bracelet back on, willing to continue with the strategy. A 7 gives him 2 choices. If he continues to date Guhu, go to the skateboard park. If he doesn't like him, a 7 will push a new character. Chiyo Ibai thinks he's already become sisters with Guhu and chooses a new character without hesitation. Chiyo Ibai suddenly thinks of a question. A 7 is in the bracelet, so does that mean he saw him bathing and changing clothes? A 7 says he has no interest in that. Chiyo Ibai arrives at the basketball court, holding a skateboard. He believes in finishing what he starts and decides he must learn to skateboard. He doesn't notice that there's a boy following closely behind him. A 7 reminds him that he now has 2 choices: backhand punch or let go of the skateboard. Chiyo Ibai thought for a moment. He let go of the skateboard and it fell to the ground. The boy following behind was caught off guard. He stepped on it and immediately did a perfect split. Chiyo Ibai hurried to help him up. Just then, a basketball flew over, about to hit the boy's head. In the blink of an eye, Chiyo Ibai raised his hand and punched the basketball away. The fallen boy's eyes were full of admiration. Chiyo Ibai helped the boy up. He rubbed the back of his head and smiled sheepishly. He had originally intended to scare Chiyo Ibai from behind, but ended up embarrassing himself instead. Then he introduced himself. His name is Huang Zaixia, a third-year student. Chiyo Ibai also introduced himself. At this moment, someone called out to Huang Zaixia that class was about to start. So Huang Zaixia said goodbye to Chiyo Ibai. Chiyo Ibai realized that the person calling was Dongxing. He waved his hand, preparing to greet him, but the other person just turned and left. Chiyo Ibai was a bit confused. Did Dongxing not remember him? Chiyo Ibai was about to continue practicing skateboarding when he suddenly saw a hat on the ground. It was Huang Zaixia's, left behind earlier. A 7 promptly reminded him of 3 options: chase after him to return the hat, search online for the hat's owner, or continue skateboarding. Chiu Bai had no idea which classroom Huang Zixia was in, so he couldn't chase after him and could only choose to continue skateboarding. On the way to the classroom, Huang Zixia asked Dongxing which elective course he chose. Dongxing took out Marxist principles and handed it to him. Huang Zixia pushed the book back, wondering why he would choose this course. He said he just picked it randomly. At this moment, a girl rushed past them from behind. She accidentally knocked the book to the ground. The girl quickly crouched down, picked up the book, and apologized to Dongxing. He smiled and said it was okay. He put his arm around Dongxing's shoulder, suggesting that if he was in a good mood, but ignored Chiu Bai, it meant that person held a different place in his heart. Huang Zixia also mentioned that usually Dongxing was only unkind to him and nice to everyone else. Dongxing smiled, saying he was nice to him too. Seeing this smile, Huang Zixia got goosebumps all over. He covered his face with both hands, telling Dongxing to stop smiling. It looked so fake. Huang Zixia touched his head with both hands and realized his hat was missing. He remembered he had left it on the field, wanted to go find it. That hat cost him half a month's living expenses. So he asked Dongxing to help him mark attendance while he went to look for the hat. Near the basketball court, Chiu Bai practiced skateboarding for a while. Feeling it was too hot, he put away the skateboard and prepared to leave. Just then, someone called out by Chiu and ran towards him. He instinctively raised his arm and knocked the person down with an elbow strike. Looking closely, he realized it was Huang Zixia. He quickly apologized and explained that he thought it was someone from the boxing club, as only they would call him that way. But Huang Zixia clasped his hands and knelt down, wanting to acknowledge Chiu Bai as his big brother, because his boxing skills were truly amazing. Chiu Bai saw him kneeling on the ground, trying to please him. He told him to get up quickly. Huang Zixia said he had twisted his waist and couldn't get up. At this moment, A7 gave Chiu Bai several options again. Rest beside him, ask nearby students for help, or let him call his friends for help. Chiu Bai directly picked up Huang Zixia in a princess carry. He carried him to a nearby bench and asked if he needed to go to the infirmary. Huang Zixia looked at him with admiration, holding Chiu Bai's shoulders. He wondered how a junior sister could be so strong. A guy was princess carried by a junior girl. It was too romantic. As he spoke, he reached out to touch Chiu Bai's face. Suddenly, a hand reached out from the side and forcefully pushed Huang Zixia away. Chiu Bai realized it was Dongxing. He was wondering if this guy had already forgotten about him. Should he greet him or not? While hesitating, Dongxing asked if his name was Bai Chiu. He replied that his name was Chiu Bai. Dongxing smiled and told him that Huang Zixia had some mental issues, so don't take him seriously. But Huang Zixia rushed to tell Chiu Bai that he was very special to him. Dongxing choked Huang Zixia from behind, telling him to go back quickly or he'd really fail the course. Dongxing put his arm around Huang Zixia's neck and dragged him away. He struggled to turn his head back and shouted his WeChat ID to Chiu Bai. Dongxing turned back to look at Chiu Bai, mouthing the words, "Dare to add him and see what happens." That evening, the school newspaper started gossiping again. It wrote that Chiu Bai was pursuing Huang Zixia, who begged to be let go. Then Chiu Bai carried him away in public, with related pictures attached. Huang Zixia was stunned. This was pure fabrication. At this moment, he received a message. It was an anti-fraud guide from Dongxing. He told Huang Zixia that Chiu Bai was not simple and not to be fooled. But Huang Zixia thought he was just jealous. In the school's second cafeteria, a roommate looked at his phone and told Chiu Bai he was in the news again. Chiu Bai asked while eating he hadn't been in any fights recently. What did they write about? The roommate handed the phone to him, telling him to look carefully. Chiu Bai read it carefully and was furious. He decided to settle old and new scores together by beating up the newspaper's editor-in-chief. He pinched his roommate's face, demanding to know why they couldn't write about Huang Zixia criticizing him for valuing romance over friendship. The roommate said he was often in the news and he was tired of seeing it. Just then, two guys walked over from the opposite side. It was the little son, Huang Zixia, and the student council president. Chiu Bai quickly crouched down to hide. He said he was too embarrassed to face little son, Huang Zixia, after causing him to be in the news. Just as he finished speaking, a voice came over asking who he was too embarrassed to face. Chiu Bai looked up and saw Huang Zixia smiling at him. He immediately stood up and humorously replied that he was just absorbing the Earth's essence. The four of them sat together, chatting casually. When Huang Zixia heard that Qiu Yibai was here for a sculpture class, he burst out laughing. He pointed at Dongxing. Back then, he also chose this course, but the work he produced was like a pile of shit. Qiu Yibai was shocked by his words. Suddenly, he remembered the hat on his head. He quickly took it off and handed it to Huang Zixia, explaining that he was afraid he'd forget, so he kept it on his head. Huang Zixia took the hat and put it back on Qiu Yibai's head. He told him it looked much better on him than on himself. He invited him to play ball at the gym after class. Qiu Yibai readily agreed. In the gym, Huang Zixia, Dongxing, and their classmates were playing basketball. Dongxing leaped high and made a beautiful dunk. Huang Zixia fist bumped him, admiring how he was still so good. Dongxing wiped his sweat. He said he had to go to the library and told them to continue playing. His teammates noticed Dongxing leaving and wanted to call him back. Huang Zixia told his classmates not to worry, saying he had called a friend who would arrive soon. Dongxing was organizing his backpack. He saw Qiu Yibai and a guy with glasses walking in. Qiu Yibai asked the guy with glasses why the newspaper club president didn't come. The guy told him the president was beaten up, so he didn't dare to come. Qiu Yibai told him to tell the president it's better not to come, or he'd beat him up every time he sees him. The guy with glasses used 2 fingers to pull Qiu Yibai's mouth upwards, telling him to speak more gently and smile more. Qiu Yibai grabbed his wrist, informing him that if they weren't high school classmates, he would have punched him already. Dongxing watched from afar as the two acted so intimately, thinking this girl was really something. Huang Zixia also saw Qiu Yibai and quickly greeted him, taking him to change clothes. Dongxing watched all this, clenching his fists tightly. He decided he needed to deal with this little girl. Qiu Yibai followed Huang Zixia to the basketball court. Huang Zixia introduced him to his teammates. The teammates said they knew Qiu Yibai and welcomed him. Huang Zixia arranged for Qiu Yibai to replace Dongxing's position and prepared to continue playing. At this moment, Dongxing walked over with a bottle of water. He handed the water to Huang Zixia, saying he wasn't going to the library anymore and there was no need for Qiu Yibai to substitute. Huang Zixia said they had enough people now and told Dongxing to go to the library without worry. He then handed the water to Qiu Yibai. Dongxing pointed at a teammate, Da Qiang, saying he had to go to a class meeting so he could replace him. Da Qiang looked confused, not knowing about any class meeting. Qiu Yibai quickly said it was fine to have one more person, so the basketball game began. Qiu Yibai moved and jumped nimbly on the court. He was agile and kept scoring. The cheerleaders were all cheering for him. They even thoughtfully brought him bottled water. Da Xiang put his arm around Dongxing's shoulder, praising how well Qiu Yibai played basketball. He even wanted to become his disciple. Huang Zixia quickly stopped Da Xiang, saying Qiu Yibai was his big brother and no one else should even think about it. The two started arguing. Qiu Yibai secretly complained that the people A7 recommended were so unreliable. But A7 told him to go straighten out Huang Zixia's rolled-up collar. Qiu Yibai obediently walked to Huang Zixia's side and reached out to straighten his collar. Dongxing watched this, his eyes burning with anger. In the lounge, Qiu Yibai looked at the campus news on his phone. He was trending on campus again. A7 didn't understand why he wasn't happy about knowing so many cute guys. Qiu Yibai felt it was useless. They're just a bunch of brothers. A7 comforted him, saying among so many brothers, one will eventually become his boyfriend. But Qiu Yibai told A7 that he's had this thought since his first year of high school, yet he still doesn't have a boyfriend. As he spoke, tears involuntarily rolled down his cheeks. A7 hugged him, comforting him that with A7 around, he had nothing to fear. Just then, Qiu Yibai heard someone calling his name. He turned around and saw it was Dongxing. Dongxing took him to a warehouse. Inside were many motorcycles and various people dressed strangely. Qiu Yibai was a bit scared and didn't want to go in. Dongxing forcefully grabbed his hand. He pulled him inside and pushed him onto a nearby sofa. A boy walked over, looking at Qiu Yibai. He asked Dongxing if this girl had offended him. Dongxing irritably told him to go away. Then he put his foot on the sofa's backrest. His eyes fixed on Qiu Yibai, warning him to stay away from Huang Zixia. Qiu Yibai didn't understand why Dongxing would make such a demand. Dongxing cursed at him, saying he'd become shameless from hanging out with guys. Qiu Yibai couldn't take it anymore and swung his fist at Dongxing's face. Dongxing touched the spot where he was hit, still not fully reacting. Qiu Ibai threw another punch. Everyone around was stunned. Dongxing angrily roared at Chiu Ibai to get lost. Guhu came over and asked Dongxing what happened. Dongxing said it was none of his business. Guhu took Chiu Ibai home on his motorcycle. After getting off, Chiu Ibai ran away without saying goodbye. Guhu called after him, reminding him he forgot to take off the hat. He thoughtfully helped remove the hat, only then seeing Chiu Ibai's tear-stained face. He reached out to comfort him, but before his hand could touch Chiu Ibai, someone kicked him away. It was Chiu Ibai's sister, who thought Guhu was bullying Chiu Ibai. The sister locked his arm behind his back, forcing him to kneel. Guhu quickly explained it was a misunderstanding. Chiu Ibai looked at his sister and suddenly threw himself into her arms, crying with grievance. The sister still wanted to hit Guhu. He hurriedly took out his student ID. Only then was the misunderstanding cleared up. The sister asked Guhu why her sister was crying. Guhu explained what happened. The sister felt she had misunderstood him and asked if she had hurt him. She stood up, preparing to get him some water. But suddenly, the sister's low blood sugar acted up. Feeling dizzy, she fell onto Guhu's back. Guhu reached back with both hands to catch her. He then threw her forcefully onto the sofa. The sister was a bit angry, thinking he was getting revenge for being hit earlier. Guhu denied it, telling the sister it was almost curfew time. Then he quickly ran away. In his room, Chiu Ibai hugged a stuffed toy, feeling very sad. He told A7 he didn't want to play the game anymore, and that he would slowly pay back the money. A7 thought Dongxing's words were indeed too harsh. Chiu Ibai just wanted a date. There was nothing wrong with that. He encouraged Chiu Ibai to make friends with boys, get to know them slowly, and not to back down because of Dongxing's words. A7 hoped to become excellent together with Chiu Ibai, so that this misunderstanding would be resolved. Chiu Ibai took off his bracelet, telling A7 not to let his voice be heard outside. His sister was still outside. Then he closed the door and walked down the stairs. Perhaps due to the wind while riding the motorcycle earlier, he couldn't help but sneeze. His sister saw Chiu Ibai and asked if he was feeling better. He threw himself into his sister's arms again and cried. He felt his sister worked so hard, living here for 2 months, and he only saw her today. She wiped away his tears, teasing him for crying at his age. She asked if he was being bullied at school. Chiu Ibai quickly denied it, saying he was too tough for anyone to bully him. It was just a misunderstanding. His sister asked if he was misunderstood by someone he liked. Chiu Ibai told her it was just a friend he'd known for a few days. His sister thought that if it was someone unimportant, he shouldn't care too much. The next day, his sister was awakened by the doorbell. She opened the door to find it was Guhu. He had left the student ID here. His sister slammed the door shut, scolding him for coming so early in the morning. Guhu was helpless. It was already noon. After a while, his sister had changed out of her pajamas. She apologized to him and let Guhu into the house. Chiu Ibai was sprawled out, sleeping on the sofa. His sister lifted Guhu's chin with her hand, making him look up, not allowing him to look at Chiu Ibai. His sister crouched down, wanting to wake Chiu Ibai to sleep in his room. Seeing his drowsy state, she felt his forehead and found he had a fever. His sister told Guhu his student ID was on the table, and she went to get a blanket for Chiu Ibai. At this moment, the phone in Chiu Ibai's pocket rang. Chiu Ibai groggily took out his phone, accidentally dropping it on the floor. Guhu quickly went to help pick it up, still looking up, not daring to look down. Chiu Ibai's hands fumbled on the ground, his finger accidentally pressing the answer button. A voice came from the phone, inviting Chiu Ibai to play ball in the afternoon. Soon after, the doorbell rang again. His sister opened the door. She saw 2 handsome boys standing at the door. It was Huang Zixia and Dongxing. They told his sister they came to visit Chiu Ibai. Seeing the 2 large bags of medicine they were carrying, his sister was a bit surprised. Huang Zixia explained that because they didn't know what kind of cold Chiu Ibai had, Dongxing told them to buy a variety. Gu told them Chiu Ibai had a fever and asked if they had fever patches. Huang Zixia took out a stack of fever patches. The 2 of them put several patches on Chiu Ibai's face, thinking it would help the fever go down faster. His sister came over, learned they hadn't eaten, and called to order takeout. Guhu thoughtfully suggested cooking some rice porridge for Chiu Ibai. Dongxing looked at Chiu Ibai's sleeping posture, thinking this girl couldn't even sleep properly. The blanket on him was about to fall to the floor. Dongxing quickly walked over, picked up the blanket, and prepared to cover Chiu Bai. Chiu Bai just woke up and saw Dongxing's action. He immediately poked his fingers towards Dongxing's eyes, warning him not to ruin his innocence. Dongxing was startled and stepped back, sitting on the ground. He accused Chiu Bai of watching too many TV dramas, saying he would never do anything illegal. Chiu Bai touched his face and found it covered with fever patches. He thought Dongxing was trying to disfigure him and wanted to tear them off. Dongxing was furious at Chiu Bai's accusation, asking if his brain was fried. He then firmly grabbed Chiu Bai's arm, telling him those were fever patches and couldn't be removed. Chiu Bai thought Dongxing wanted to fight. Dongxing tried to scare Chiu Bai, smiling and saying they didn't know who was better at fighting. Indeed, Chiu Bai was scared, thinking Dongxing might really be good at fighting. Huang Zixia returned with drinks, saw their position, and was stunned for a moment. He turned to leave, saying he was interrupting them. Chiu Bai, seeing the misunderstanding, angrily kicked Dongxing. Dongxing fell to his knees in pain, shaking all over. Chiu Bai apologized verbally, but thought to himself that he finally got revenge. At this moment, the delivery man's voice came from outside. The takeout his sister ordered had arrived. A rich feast was laid out on the table. Huang Zixia said while eating that he would come to freeload more often in the future. His sister welcomed this, of course. Meanwhile, Chiu Bai looked at the plain porridge and fermented tofu in front of him and protested. He complained about why he was the only one with plain porridge. Dongxing beside him said that when having a fever, one should eat light food. As he spoke, he moved the fermented tofu in front of him. Chiu Bai immediately blocked the plate, asking if he was a man, still trying to take things from him. Then he thought this guy always targets him. Could it be because of Huang Zixia? Realizing this, he was suddenly shocked. He had discovered a big secret. This guy liked Huang Zixia. Dongxing saw Chiu Bai's strange expression and thought he was feverish again. The next second, Chiu Bai quickly picked up the porridge in front of him and finished it in no time. Then he announced he was going upstairs. He quickly ran upstairs. Once in his room, Chiu Bai immediately called out loudly for A7. Looking at the boy lying on the bed, he immediately told him he wanted to continue playing the game. A7 asked what happened. Chiu Bai told him about his recent discovery. He felt he should compete fairly with Dongxing. A7 said they just needed to continue playing. Then he suggested the girl play the king's game with the people downstairs. She immediately refused this proposal, but A7 assured her he would definitely make her win. Convinced, Chiu Bai decided to dress up and continue his strategy. Soon after, the five of them gathered in the living room to play the game. With A7's help, Chiu Bai indeed drew the king card. As the king, he ordered numbers 2 and 3 to go buy live octopus to eat. The sister and Guhu who drew these 2 cards were stunned. Then they got dressed and prepared to go out as required. The remaining 3 people started a new round of drawing cards. Not surprisingly, with the cheat enabled, Chiu Bai drew the king again. He excitedly held up the card, looking at the 2 commoners. A7 whispered in his ear, telling him Dongxing was number 2, and he could just send him away. At this moment, Chiu Bai was full of confidence. He immediately ordered number 2 to go to school and steal the art school dean's wig. Unexpectedly, when they revealed their cards, number 2 turned out to be Huang Zixia. Chiu Bai was stunned for a moment, then loudly condemned A7. But A7 had already fled. Huang Zixia reluctantly said goodbye to his good friend, instructing him to collect his body. Chiu Bai was about to say forget it, but the person had already left. Only he and Dongxing were left in the room. He was about to tell the person in front of him to leave too, but Dongxing spoke first. He suggested they watch TV while waiting. He didn't treat himself as an outsider at all. They turned on the TV and sat at opposite ends of the sofa, not saying a word. Chiu Bai felt very annoyed. He called out to A7 through his bracelet, telling him not to be a coward. A7 was very embarrassed. He told him to treat this as an unexpected surprise. After all, Dongxing was very good looking. Hearing this, he turned his head to look at the person beside him. At this moment, Dongxing suddenly looked at him. He had to admit that this guy was indeed good looking. On the other side, in the seafood market, the 2 with the mission were buying octopus as required. The shopkeeper casually caught a live octopus, put it in a plastic bag, and handed it to them. Guhu tremblingly reached out to take it, but then withdrew his hand. Chiu Yuebi, beside him, grabbed his retreating hand, asking if he was afraid. Guhu stubbornly said he wasn't afraid, but seeing the moving plastic bag, he still still jumped to the side in fright, admitting he was a little scared. Chiyo Yuebi found him a bit cute. She took the bag, then patted the man's head, telling him she would carry it. She asked him to help her eat more later. Meanwhile, in the living room, Chiyo Ibai was stunned by Dongshin's looks, his face turning red. Dongshin casually threw a blanket to him, reminding him to cover up properly when having a fever. Seeing him still looking at himself, he asked if he wanted a cola. Neza? Chiyo Ibai was confused. What Neza? Dongshin explained. He had 2 little buns on his head. Wasn't he cosplaying as Neza? Hearing this, he angrily stood up on the sofa, loudly telling the person in front of him that this was his painstakingly braided hairstyle. The two started bickering over this hairstyle. Chiyo Ibai felt he was insulting him. Seeing his light retort, he became very angry. Taking advantage of the moment when the other person turned around, he raised his foot, intending to kick him. But unfortunately, Dongshin immediately noticed. He blocked the incoming kick, then grabbed his calf with both hands and pulled. Chiyo Ibai was caught off guard by this move, his head hitting the sofa. He shouted in dissatisfaction. Dongshin innocently stated that he had tried to sneak attack him, so wasn't he allowed to retaliate? But Chiyo Ibai didn't care about him. He immediately raised his other foot and frantically kicked his head. Dongshin was kicked dizzy. As he let go, the two tumbled in chaos and fell to the ground. Dongshin immediately got up from the ground, holding his forehead. He turned and punched the sofa, glaring angrily at the person lying on the ground. Seeing him so angry, Chiyo Ibai immediately smiled and told him to calm down. They both fell, so it's even now. Dongshin thought his behavior was just like an elementary school student. At this moment, the system panel suddenly popped up. Based on his recent performance, the system recommended a new potential love interest for Chiyo Ibai. He immediately decided to check it. The panel suddenly displayed new content, asking if he wanted to pursue the man in front of him. He was very confused about this, but when he understood that the system meant for him to pursue Dongshin, he was very dissatisfied. He excitedly bumped into the person crouching in front of him. Seeing Dongshin hurt by the collision, he awkwardly explained that his brain might be fried and he was a bit dizzy. But obviously, Dongshin was even angrier, his face very gloomy. Seeing him so angry, Chiyo Ibai could only laugh awkwardly. Then he quickly fled the scene, not forgetting to apologize loudly. Dongshin chased after him. At this moment, the front door opened. The two who had finished buying octopus just stepped in. Before they could say anything, they saw a figure rushing towards them. Unsurprisingly, Chiyo Ibai couldn't stop in time and collided with his sister. The two men on the side watched in shock. The next second, Guhu caught Chiyo Yuebi, who was about to fall. But the sister was clearly too nervous and grabbed his hair. This time he couldn't catch her. They slipped and fell together. On the other side, Dongshin managed to grab Chiyo Ibai, who was about to fall. He suddenly turned his head and awkwardly said thank you to him. Seeing this, he replied, "It's nothing." Standing steady, the two looked at the two still lying on the ground. Guhu helped Chiyo Yuebi up, apologizing for not being able to catch her. The sister stood up and immediately sternly questioned the two who had just caused the accident, asking why they were running in the house. The two simultaneously waved their arms, saying they were exercising. At this moment, Dongshin's phone notification sound rang. Huang Zixia sent a message asking for help. Seeing this, he said goodbye to everyone, preparing to leave. Guhu saw him leave and felt he should go home too, so he also said goodbye and left. They bid farewell to each other. Chiyo Ibai didn't forget to make faces at Dongshin. The two walked out the door, silent for a moment. Dongshin asked Guhu why his face was so red. He immediately asked back, wasn't his face the same? Dongshin stubbornly said his was from being hit. The next day, Chiyo Ibai's best friend told him the latest school newspaper news. It turned out that little son Huang Zixia was in the school newspaper again. The reason was that he publicly snatched the art school dean's wig. The best friend thought little son had been in the school newspaper too often lately, suspecting he was infected by Chiyo Ibai. Hearing himself being described like a virus, he protested in dissatisfaction. At this moment, the system panel suddenly popped up, displaying today's date location options. Chiyo Ibai thought that the garage and studio weren't places Huang Zixia would go. To be safe, he decided to go to the playground. After making up his mind, he said goodbye to his desk mate. At this time, there weren't too many people on the playground. Some were dating, some were playing ball. Chiyo Ibai leaned against the railing and observed carefully, but didn't see Huang Zixia. Just as he was puzzled, a man's voice suddenly asked what he was looking for. Chiu Ibai was startled. He turned his head to see the person, and it was Dongxing. At this moment, the panel popped up, listing dialogue options. Looking at these options, Chiu Ibai was speechless. How could he choose? At this time, A7 spoke up, telling him to choose B. He had no choice but to follow, telling Dongxing he was waiting for him. The man expressed doubt about this. Chiu Ibai immediately changed the subject, asking him to look at his hairstyle, saying it shouldn't look like Neza anymore. Unexpectedly, the man suddenly leaned closer, resting on the railing beside him. Then he touched Chiu Ibai's forehead, asking if his brain was still drifting. Yesterday's grudge wasn't settled, yet he dared to come find him now. Chiu Ibai immediately said his brain was indeed drifting, internally cursing A7 furiously. At this moment, A7 told him to quickly cup the other's face, saying it was his weakness. So the next second, Chiu Ibai fearlessly cupped Dongxing's face. The man's expression changed, and he immediately scolded him. But Chiu Ibai still held his face, complimenting his handsomeness and telling him not to be angry. Dongxing felt this person was inexplicably acting crazy. Chiu Ibai immediately told him sincerely that he just thought he was handsome. Sure enough, the person in front of him visibly softened and his anger decreased. Seeing this, he knew the opportunity had come. Taking advantage of the moment, Chiu Ibai started running. Unfortunately, just as he started, he turned and bumped into Huang Zixia, who had just arrived. He was forced to stop. Seeing Huang Zixia's face looking unwell from the collision, he immediately showed concern. The man told him he was fine and even invited him to play ball. Chiu Ibai was still worried and asked if yesterday's incident had affected his mood. Huang Zixia rubbed his head, looking indifferent, saying he was just scolded. The system panel popped up with options. Give him an encouraging hug, pat his head to comfort, give him a punch, tell him to cheer up. Chiu Ibai stepped forward, wanting to give him. Just as he was about to, his collar was grabbed. He was exasperated by Dongxing's action and asked what he was doing. Dongxing told him not to try to ambush Huang Zixia. Hearing this, Chiu Ibai swung his fist at the man, fiercely telling him that he only had a grudge with him. As the two were fighting, Huang Zixia had to step forward to break it up. Unexpectedly, Chiu Ibai's swinging fist hit his face. The two who were fighting immediately stopped. Seeing his nose bleeding profusely, they approached him. They comforted the innocently injured Huang Zixia, asking if he was okay, then took him to the infirmary. Outside the door, Chiu Ibai saw Dongxing come out and immediately asked about Huang Zixia's condition. The man said he just didn't do well in the exam. That's why he was so fragile. He'd be fine after some sleep. He thought little son had failed the exam, but it turned out he had suddenly dropped from first to second place after being first for years. Chiu Ibai understood this very well. Moreover, Huang Zixia liked sports so much. Hearing this, Dongxing realized he had misunderstood. But given Huang Zixia's silly appearance, he did look like someone studying sports. However, he just appeared to be unserious. He was actually very serious in his major courses. Seeing Chiu Ibai's curiosity, Dongxing told him that Huang Zixia was in the clinical program at the medical school. As he spoke, he casually tied his jacket around Chiu Ibai's waist. After hearing the explanation, Chiu Ibai found it incredible. The contrast was not small. Then he noticed the jacket tied around his waist. Dongxing reminded him that it was getting colder now. His mind was always drifting, and Huang Zixia told him to wear more. Hearing this, he felt warmth in his heart. Then Dongxing said his legs were exposed, with too much area to catch a cold. Chiu Ibai was speechless. He told him to shut up and preferably not talk at all. Then he shouted and kicked directly. Dongxing immediately dodged sideways. Then effortlessly, he pulled out the leg that was about to cause trouble. Seeing this situation, Chiu Ibai immediately apologized. Dongxing praised his quick admission of fault. He continued to admit his mistake. He asked the man to let go. Amid his pleas, Dongxing loosened his grip, but Chiu Ibai revealed a mischievous smile. Seizing the opportunity, he pulled out his leg and immediately kneed Dongxing's leg hard. Caught off guard, Dongxing fell straight down. About to fall, he turned and grabbed Chiu Ibai. Not expecting this move, Chiu Ibai was pulled down together. He fell directly on top of Dongxing. Just as he raised his head, he realized his lipstick had left a mark on the man's face. Staring at the lipstick mark, Qiu Yibai thought, it's over, it's over. He didn't know whether to tell Dongxing. Looking at the person in front of him, Dongxing suddenly recalled the scene in the infirmary earlier. At that time, he had asked about Huang Zaixia's condition. After knowing he was fine, he told him he would come pick him up later. Seeing him agree, for some inexplicable reason, he asked Huang Zaixia to take off his jacket. Huang Zaixia was confused by this behavior and asked Dongxing what he wanted to do, but he directly took the clothes off. As he was leaving, Huang Zaixia directly pointed out his intention, knowing he wanted to give the clothes to Qiu Yibai. He even teased that he actually cared about others now and felt pleased about it. But he also wondered if he had fallen for Qiu Yibai. Now, seeing Qiu Yibai fall on top of him, he couldn't help but recall his good friend's words. Could he really have fallen for this woman in front of him? Thinking of this, Dongxing's face instantly turned red. He pushed the person away. Denying that absurd thought, he silently told himself that he would never like this woman. Qiu Yibai was speechless at his sudden action. Frowning, he questioned why he didn't say anything before getting up. Seeing him like this, he didn't want to tell him about the lipstick mark anymore. He simply decided to leave. Both hoped to part ways forever and never meet again. Qiu Yibai returned home and immediately called out A7. He asked whether today's date was supposed to be with Dongxing or Huang Zaixia. A7 told him it was Huang Zaixia. Upon hearing this, he immediately questioned why Dongxing appeared for a longer time. He was very dissatisfied with this arrangement. A7 couldn't help but argue with him, feeling that this was his own problem. Moreover, two grown men always like to stick together, and there was nothing he could do about it. Qiu Yibai couldn't argue back. He wanted A7 to arrange a new character for him to pursue. A7 asked if he no longer liked Huang Zaixia. Qiu Yibai explained that he never had a chance to be alone with him. Dongxing would always appear. If he couldn't handle it, he could at least avoid it. After hearing the explanation, A7 said the new character pushed by the system was Dongxing. If he didn't choose to pursue this one, there was no way to push a new one. Even if he had pursued during the trial play, it wasn't counted by the system. Seeing his dejected look, A7 recommended he pursue Guhu. Qiu Yibai felt it wasn't right. He only wanted to be sisters with him. A7 brought up the system panel, telling him there was nothing he could do, but he must choose a date location. If he exceeded the agreed time for selection, it would count as a game failure. As per the requirements, he would need to pay a usage fee. Qiu Yibai was speechless. He immediately got up and started choosing, deciding to continue pursuing Huang Zaixia. The next day, at the basketball court, Huang Zaixia and his companions finished packing up and were about to leave. Just as they left the locker room, they saw Qiu Yibai standing outside. He immediately walked up to him. Qiu Yibai saw him coming. He took out the lunchbox he had brought, telling him he was a bit worried about him. So he ordered takeout for him. After saying this, he looked around. He asked if Dongxing was around. Huang Zaixia misunderstood his meaning, thinking he wanted to see Dongxing. After all, he was charming, but his good friend was also great. It was normal to be liked, so he told Qiu Yibai to find a place to wait for him. Then he opened WeChat and sent a message to Dongxing. Meanwhile, Dongxing happened to be scrolling through the school newspaper. He found that he was trending. His photo with lipstick on his face was criticized. There was even a photo of him falling together with Qiu Yibai. The comment section was flooded with comments. The topic became very hot. As Dongxing scrolled through the comments, he felt deeply that Qiu Yibai was a jinx. At this moment, WeChat popped up a message. Huang Zaixia sent a message saying someone was looking for him. This person was Qiu Yibai. Looking at WeChat, Dongxing could barely control his facial expression. He sent a message questioning how this woman dared to come find him. Did she want to fight? When he saw Huang Zaixia say that Qiu Yibai had brought food for him, he thought this person must want to poison him. So he told his good friend not to eat it and that he would be there soon. Nearby, Curson suddenly spoke up, asking if there was anything else for the cultural festival. He immediately regained his composure and told her he had something to do. Then he picked up his backpack and prepared to leave. The department's little fangirls were left swooning. On the field, Huang Zaixia happily opened the lunchbox and started eating. He thought such delicious food should be saved for Dongxing. The system panel popped up at this moment. Qiu Yibai told him to eat it all. Then, following the system's options, he took out a tissue. Just as he was about to wipe the food off Huang Zaixia's face, Dongxing suddenly appeared and took his tissue. Dongxing directly tossed the tissue to Huang Zaixia, telling him to wipe the food off his face. Chiu Ibai saw this guy come and ruin his strategy and instantly became unhappy. The two of them, like old enemies meeting, immediately started arguing. As the argument grew more intense, Huang Zixia had to speak up to mediate. Unsurprisingly, he was rebuffed by both of them. The two continued arguing. Dongxing casually took out his phone and showed him the content of the school newspaper. Chiu Ibai knew it was trouble he had caused. He smiled and said this was thanks to him. He had helped increase his popularity. Dongxing laughed out of anger. He took out a lipstick, ready to help Chiu Ibai increase his popularity. Then he pinched the other's face and brought the lipstick closer. Seeing this, Chiu Ibai immediately begged for mercy, calling Dongxing Big Brother and asking him to let him go. Seeing the man unmoved, he immediately sought help from Huang Zixia nearby. But Huang Zixia thought they were flirting and laughed as he walked away. After a fierce struggle, both Chiu Ibai and Dongxing's faces were covered in lipstick. After another argument, the two decided to call it even and stop bothering each other. At this moment, Kursin called out. Dongxing was surprised that his face was messed up. Then she told him there was a problem with the cultural festival stage and he needed to take a look. After Dongxing agreed, she took out her tissue and told him to wipe his face. Then she turned to look at Chiu Ibai nearby, recognizing him as the girl from the school newspaper. At this time, Chiu Ibai was still immersed in Dongxing's earlier saintly smile, thinking he was terrifying. He then called out A7. After A7 appeared, he informed him that he wanted to change his pursuit target. Under A7's questioning, he blurted out that he had decided to pursue Dongxing. Chiu Ibai's words surprised A7. He asked if he was serious or joking. He said he could arrange it for him, but Chiu Ibai refused, saying he needed to make some preparations. Then he went to the bathroom. Looking in the mirror, he removed the lipstick that had been applied to his face earlier. In his heart, he cursed Dongxing again, silently vowing that he would never reconcile with him. Just as he came out of the bathroom, he ran into Guhu coming towards him. They greeted each other. Seeing that Guhu was about to return to the dormitory, Chiu Ibai wanted to drag him along to go shopping. After getting his consent, they set off together. The two arrived at the store. Chiu Ibai bought a bunch of things, but felt it wasn't enough. Guhu noticed that he was buying things to prank others. He asked if someone had offended him. Chiu Ibai didn't realize he was so obvious and smilingly admitted it. After finishing shopping, Chiu Ibai offered to treat Guhu to afternoon tea. Before Guhu could agree, he saw a familiar person not far away. It was Chiu Ibai. He was shaking hands with a gentleman. Chiu Ibai saw his sister and greeted her. The group then went into the shop together to order afternoon tea. Chiu Ibai told his sister that he and Guhu were shopping here and asked if she was discussing business. Chiu Ibai took a sip of coffee and told them she was on a blind date. Chiu Ibai was shocked to hear this. He quickly moved closer to his sister, very confused. After all, his sister was a believer in being single. His sister explained that it was arranged by their mother. If the blind date didn't work out, she might develop a client. Hearing this, Chiu Ibai hugged his sister sympathetically. He said he couldn't bear it and would fight against their mother together. Then he went to order more desserts to increase their happiness. Guhu and the sister were left behind, drinking afternoon tea in silence. Chiu Ibai noticed the discomfort of the person in front of her and chuckled, asking if he was nervous. At this moment, Guhu recalled the scene of them falling together before. His cheeks suddenly turned red, and he quickly denied being nervous. Chiu Ibai then teased him, asking why he looked like he had been caught in puppy love. Guhu immediately shook his head, clarifying that he and Chiu Ibai were just sisters. Then Guhu looked at the sister drinking coffee and politely asked for her name, mainly because he couldn't keep calling her sister. Chiu Ibai felt like teasing him and asked if he wanted to call her Annie. Seeing the man's panicked expression, she secretly laughed. Then she told him her name was Chiu Ibai, but he could also call her sister. Guhu looked at the drink in his hand and quietly called out her name, feeling very shy. On the other side, Chiu Ibai got the desserts and was about to walk back when he heard someone calling for Dongxin. He turned his head towards the direction of the voice and then heard Dongxin's friend wanting to invite him over to play. Dongxin awkwardly picked up the menu and told his friend to lower his voice. The two rivals met, both sighing about how they could run into each other everywhere. At this moment, Guhu and the sister suddenly received a message. Chiu Ibai told them not to wait. After checking the message, Chiu Ibai told Guhu that she still had work to do. She asked if he was going back to school and offered to drive him back. After he agreed, the two drove away. The car was very quiet for a while. Gu could hear his own heartbeat. He couldn't help but steal glances at the person driving beside him. He found his heart beating faster and faster. Almost unable to control it, his face suddenly turned bright red. Chiu Yuebai saw that they were almost at the school and asked if he needed her to drop him off inside. Gu told her he could go back on his own. Meanwhile, he secretly took out his phone and dropped it under the car seat. Then he casually opened the car door and said goodbye to Chiu Yuebai. On the other side, Chiu Yibai, who was invited to join the dinner, sat down and introduced himself to everyone present. After giving basic information, he stated that he had one thing to clarify. He and Dongxin were not in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. After hearing Chiu Yibai's words, the other two also introduced themselves. One was called Lu Lei, and the other was called Kursin. Lu Lei's gossipy heart was stirring. He found it strange that if they weren't in a relationship, why would that situation in the infirmary occur? Dongxin explained that he wouldn't bully children with mental disabilities. Hearing this, Chiu Yibai stomped on his foot hard under the table. With a smile on his face, he said he wanted to thank the old man for not bullying him. Dongxin then pinched his cheek, smiling falsely and telling him to learn to respect the elderly in the future. The two appeared friendly on the surface, but were actually fighting fiercely under the table. The two people opposite couldn't interject, but they both felt the two had a good relationship. This was clearly a quarrel, which is why they weren't admitting to being in a relationship. Hearing this, the two who were still bickering immediately declared in unison that they were not a couple. The two opposite just quietly watched their performance. Dongxin also felt quite embarrassed about this situation. He told them to order whatever they wanted, and he would pay. Chiu Yibai looked at his smiling expression and found it very creepy. He casually picked up the menu and held it in front of their faces, quietly discussing the issue of peaceful coexistence with him. After all, they see each other all the time at school, and they can't fight every time they meet. Seeing Dongxin's indifferent face, Chiu Yibai said if he wanted to be in the school newspaper every day, that could be arranged. Dongxin didn't understand what he was trying to do with this act, but he felt he must be up to no good again. Just as he was hesitating, Chiu Yibai suddenly stood up and told Lu Lei and the others that he was his girlfriend. Before he could finish speaking, Dongxin covered his mouth. Dongxin compromised and agreed to maintain a peaceful coexistence on the surface. Only then did Chiu Yibai let him go. He told the two people opposite that he was Dongxin's female friend. Dongxin put on a fake smile and went along with it. Lu Lei and Kursin felt that Dongxin had an indescribable scariness about him at this moment. The group finished their meal and walked out of the restaurant. Before leaving, Lu Lei and Kursin asked Chiu Yibai if he wanted to return to school together. He said he didn't have class and would go home first, so they all said goodbye to each other. Back home, Chiu Yibai took out a piece of paper and drew Dongxin's likeness on it. He smiled as he looked at the little figure in the drawing, thinking that this person's good days were coming to an end. At this moment, a 7 appeared and asked him to choose a date location. Chiu Yibai looked at the prompt on the panel and chose the garage that Dongxin often went to. But after choosing, he began to worry that the people in the garage were too fierce. Could he even get in? A 7 told him he could enter just by giving his name. At this moment, the sound of the door opening came. The next second, his sister appeared before his eyes. He immediately ran over to welcome her. Chiu Yuebai held out a phone in front of him. Just as he thought this was a phone his sister was giving him, he heard Chiu Yuebai explain that it was Guhu's. She asked him to help return it. Chiu Yibai nodded in agreement. At this moment, the phone received a message. It turned out to be Guhu messaging his sister, saying he had left his phone in her car. The next day, as per his sister's request, Chiu Yibai returned the phone to Guhu. Seeing that it was him returning the phone, Gu couldn't help but feel a bit disappointed. His carefully planned scheme had failed. He didn't get to see Chiu Yuebai at all, but he wasn't discouraged. He then asked Chiu Yibai if he was going home. Upon hearing that Chiu Yibai was going to the garage, although heartbroken, he offered to go together. So the two of them went to the garage together. As soon as they walked into the garage, everyone inside looked over. Each face was expressionless. Chiu Yibai secretly cursed. The terrifying atmosphere here hadn't changed at all. At this moment, a cool-looking girl suddenly came forward and asked who she was. He hurriedly explained his identity. After hearing his name, the girl immediately announced loudly to the people around that she had found out the name of Dong's girlfriend. Before Chiu Ibai could deny it, he was grabbed by the girl. She enthusiastically introduced herself. It turned out she was a senior from the law department. Then she took Chiu Ibai to find Dongxin. At this time, Dongxin was playing games with his good friend inside the room. Snack wrappers were scattered all over the floor. He suddenly heard someone shouting that his girlfriend had arrived. He was startled. He immediately retorted that he didn't have a girlfriend at all. But his good friend beside him didn't care. He immediately rushed past him to see his girlfriend, even calling out sister-in-law. Dongxin was very dissatisfied and told him not to call her that. He immediately stood up and questioned Chiu Ibai why he was here. Seeing this, the others quickly left, letting them talk first. Chiu Ibai looked at the man in front of him and awkwardly said, "Long time no see." Dongxin was speechless. They had just met yesterday. This person's brain must be floating too fast, already flying out of his skull. The system panel thoughtfully appeared at this moment, presenting options in front of Chiu Ibai. Looking at the option to challenge him, Chiu Ibai was self-aware. He knew he couldn't beat him, so he stepped forward and told Dongxin that his brain had accidentally drifted here. He thought this would definitely disgust him. He continued to step forward, smiling and saying that they were now good friends coexisting peacefully. Visiting each other was only natural. Dongxin thought his brain must have been caught in a door. Then he realized, could this person be trying to get on his good side to get closer to Huang Zixia? Understanding this, he smiled slightly and directly questioned if the person in front of him was trying to please him. Then he moved closer to Chiu Ibai, asking if this tone and posture meant he had fallen for him. Seeing Chiu Ibai's rebuttal, Dongxin brought up how he had previously said he was good-looking. Then, leaning against the wall, he smiled and told Chiu Ibai not to be nervous. It was okay if he was interested in him, as he happened to be single too. Chiu Ibai looked at him, secretly thinking this was not good. This person's flirting skills were too high level. At this moment, the system panel popped up again, giving Chiu Ibai a chance to choose. The next second, he directly threw himself into Dongxin's arms. While the other was confused, he held on tightly, not letting go. Even when Dongxin struggled, he wouldn't let go. Because they were so close, Chiu Ibai could hear the other's heartbeat. Dongxin's face instantly turned red with embarrassment. After Chiu Ibai asked if he had heart disease, his face returned to normal. He angrily pinched Chiu Ibai's face, warning him not to do anything out of line again. Otherwise, he would definitely be the one to suffer. At this moment, Dongxin's friend opened the door, asking if they wanted to order takeout. But he saw their intimate behavior. Thinking he had interrupted, he immediately closed the door. Then he ran around the garage, telling everyone not to disturb them. When Dongxin heard this, he immediately wanted to chase after him and cover his mouth. Chiu Ibai came to the dining table. Takeout was placed on the table. After he sat down, the senior sister came over and asked how he had managed to win over Dongxin. The others also expressed that they had felt something was off last time. Dongxin doesn't bring others here, and he even had them intimidate Chiu Ibai. This gave a feeling of bad boys attract girls. They joked and laughed about it. The senior sister smiled and told Chiu Ibai that they were always like this. Although they looked scary, they weren't bad people. Outside the garage, Guhu casually handed a drink to Dongxin, curious why he wasn't going to eat. After learning he would go later, he asked if Chiu Ibai was really his girlfriend, and if intimidating him before was a ploy to attract him. Dongxin was really speechless about this. He told Guhu that he just wanted him to stay away from Huang Zixia. But Guhu misunderstood his meaning, thinking he didn't want Chiu Ibai to get too close to other men. Then he said that Chiu Ibai could indeed interact naturally with men, but he knew his boundaries clearly. He told Dongxin not to worry. Dongxin said in a bad tone, "Who's worried?" Guhu suggested that since they were talking about this, he wanted Dongxin to teach him how to pursue someone. Dongxin was very confused by this abrupt topic. He had never pursued anyone. How could he teach? But he still agreed to do it. After all, if Guhu found out that he had never had a girlfriend and had no experience, it would be very embarrassing for him. When Guhu heard he would teach him techniques, he immediately became serious. After a discussion between the two, Dongxin rubbed the back of his neck. Although his experience was made up, he hoped it would be of some use. Back inside, seeing Chiu Ibai playing games, he spoke up to ask him to leave. Chiu Ibai told him he would leave after finishing this game. Because he had lost too many times, his face was painted like a cat's. Dongxin immediately came over and told him not to get distracted, or he would lose. Seeing his poor gaming skills, Dongxin grabbed the game controller, intending to play himself. The game on the screen became intense. Chiu Ibai watched the fierce battle. He directly tugged at Dongshin's hair and ears, telling him to dodge quickly, mocking him as a pig, and urging him to use his ultimate move. After playing games all day, when they got home, Chiu Ibai collapsed on the sofa, exhausted. He summoned A7, asking if he could choose a new character now. After receiving an affirmative response, A7 pulled up a panel for him to choose a date location. Looking at the date locations on the panel, Chiu Ibai frustratedly said he couldn't tell who was who. How was he supposed to pick out a new character? This game was truly not user-friendly, not giving any hints at all. A7 quickly explained, telling him that once the overall rating became B, he would be able to see the names directly. Chiu Ibai didn't want to think anymore. He picked one that looked unrelated to Dongshin, the concert hall. The next day, as luck would have it, Chiu Ibai saw Dongshin with a sour face at the concert hall. He was also speechless. How could he run into him everywhere? At this moment, the system panel popped up, and Chiu Ibai chose to help Dongshin. Then he snatched the documents from his hand and strode out. Seeing this, the classmates became even more convinced that he was Dongshin's girlfriend. The next day, Chiu Ibai chose the swimming pool as the date location. He encountered Dongshin again. Dongshin couldn't help but suspect he was stalking him. Otherwise, how could he also have signed up for swimming classes? Chiu Ibai didn't bother to speak. At this time, Huang Zixia saw him and invited him to compete. Chiu Ibai accepted his competition invitation. On the third day at the library, they met again. The fourth day at the restaurant was no exception. In the following days, the two frequently ran into each other. Chiu Ibai couldn't take it anymore. He immediately questioned A7 why he always ended up choosing Dongshin, then threw the bracelet on the ground. A7 looked innocent. These were all Chiu Ibai's own choices. What did it have to do with him? It could only mean he and Dongshin were fated. Chiu Ibai was very annoyed. He said tomorrow's date would be suspended as he had a practical class and needed to go to the workshop to make something. The next day, in the basketball court, Huang Zixia found it strange that Chiu Ibai wasn't seen today. Then he changed the subject, telling Dongshin he had something to say. His face turned red, and he stammered, saying he had only realized it in the past few days. Dongshin looked confused, waiting for him to continue. Then he heard him say he had someone he liked. Huang Zixia saw his shocked expression and felt puzzled. It wasn't the first time he had told him he liked someone. He then added that he hadn't figured out how to tell that person yet. Dongshin looked at his excited appearance and expressionlessly guessed that the person he liked was Chiu Ibai. Coincidentally, Chiu Ibai also liked him. Then he thought if these two got together, wouldn't he have to see that annoying Chiu Ibai every day? The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. He didn't understand why his good friend would like that annoying person. Then, he threw the water bottle in his hand at Huang Zixia. Huang Zixia was confused and asked why he hit him. Dongshin got up to leave, telling him to drink more water. Meanwhile, Chiu Ibai returned home. A7 immediately came forward to welcome him. Then he pulled up the system panel, asking him to choose a date location. Chiu Ibai was already numb to this. He randomly picked one, thinking it was all up to luck anyway. The next day, he arrived at classroom 504 according to the option. Sure enough, there was no sign of Dongshin. He felt relieved. But after waiting for an hour and a half, not a single person showed up. The system panel popped up with options at this moment. Chiu Ibai thought rather than wasting time here, he might as well go to the boxing room to practice. So he got up and left the classroom. Just as he walked out of the classroom, his new target walked in through another door. The two perfectly missed each other. As soon as he entered the boxing room, Dongshin greeted him. Chiu Ibai hadn't expected to run into this person at the boxing club. At this moment, Dongshin asked if he was free later. Huang Zixia wanted to play basketball with him, so he should go if he's available. Hearing this, Chiu Ibai turned to ask the club president if there was training in the afternoon. After hearing there was no training, he agreed to go play basketball. On the basketball court, Huang Zixia and others were playing enthusiastically. Hearing Chiu Ibai call him, he immediately stopped and greeted him. Then he said he hadn't seen him for days and had something to tell him. Chiu Ibai asked what it was. Huang Zixia raised his fist, asking if they were good brothers. After getting Chiu Ibai's confirmation, he told him he had something to say. Chiu Ibai fist bumped him, telling him to go ahead and say it. Dongshin was about to leave when he heard his friend's request. It turned out he was asking Chiu Ibai to help find a girl named Lu Xiaomei. He met her at the cultural festival, but hadn't seen her recently. Dongshin realized he had misunderstood. His friend liked someone else. Seeing Chiu Ibai not speaking for a while, He couldn't help but think to himself, how could Huang Zixia talk about liking someone else in front of the person who likes him? Qiu Yibai didn't know Lu Xiaomei at all, so he could only stay silent for a moment. He wondered if not helping would make his good friend sad. Seeing him not speaking for a long time, Huang Zixia asked if he knew her. Qiu Yibai had to agree. He told him he would help arrange a meeting with the girl later. After saying this, Qiu Yibai planned to leave and said goodbye to him. He walked past Dongxing. Dongxing couldn't help but turn his head to look at his retreating figure. At this moment, he suddenly heard Huang Zixia's voice. He was still marveling at how reliable his brother Qiu Yibai was. Dongxing was exasperated by his thinking. At this time, a basketball rolled to his feet. He picked it up casually. He directly threw the ball at Huang Zixia, loudly questioning if his brain was waterlogged. Huang Zixia was stunned by this sudden attack. He didn't understand why he was hit again. Before he could ask why, he saw Dongxing leave angrily. Qiu Yibai scrolled through the contacts and chat groups on his phone, but couldn't find any information about Lu Xiaomei. Behind him, Dongxing looked at his melancholy figure. He wanted to invite him to watch it. Hearing it was the movie he wanted to see, Qiu Yibai agreed. In the movie theater, Qiu Yibai was holding a large portion of popcorn, while Dongxing was carrying several boxes of fried chicken. Dongxing watched as the other person ate popcorn while watching the movie. He thought to himself that eating really can improve one's mood. He then took out his phone and made reservations at several restaurants. But Dongxing suddenly wondered why he was helping him deal with post-breakup matters. Then he thought it was for his good friend Huang Zixia. So he buried his head in his phone again to place orders. After the movie ended, the two walked out of the cinema. Qiu Yibai was marveling at how great the movie was. Dongxing told him he had some restaurant discount coupons. Before he could finish speaking, he was rejected. Dongxing thought to himself that this wasn't good. He had let him eat too much last time. Qiu Yibai saw his troubled expression and suddenly remembered that he liked Huang Zixia. But now Huang Zixia had someone he liked, so the heartbroken Dongxing needed to binge eat and drink to drown his sorrows. Dongxing came to his senses and saw Qiu Yibai's sad expression. Thinking he hadn't gotten over his heartbreak, he suggested watching another comedy movie. But Qiu Yibai interrupted him. Patting his shoulder, he told him to cheer up and said he was willing to accompany him to eat. The two came to a snack street. They bought candied haws and sugar-coated rice cakes. Qiu Yibai told Dongxing that eating sweets can improve one's mood. He immediately ordered 10 more sticks of candied haws. Qiu Yibai thought he was very sad and told him to relax and eat more. Hearing this, Dongxing immediately hugged him. Qiu Yibai thought Dongxing was crying on his shoulder, so he reached out and patted his head. But Dongxing thought he was telling him not to worry. Then he let go of the embrace. The two looked into each other's eyes. Just as they were about to say something to break the silence, Qiu Yibai's phone received a message from Lulu. She said she was the Lu Xiaomei he was looking for. That name was used in a club skip performance. Qiu Yibai immediately replied upon seeing her message. He told her he had something to discuss with her. Their outing thus ended, and they returned to school together. In the activity room, Huang Zixia, blushing, confessed to Lulu he hoped she would be his girlfriend. Learning that this sunny boy had fallen for her at first sight, Lulu gladly accepted his confession. Qiu Yibai, secretly observing from the doorway, looked pleased. But Dongxing felt the girl accepted too easily. Such a relationship wouldn't last long. Qiu Yibai was about to go congratulate them. Dongxing said he wasn't very interested and suggested Qiu Yibai accompany him to the garage to play a new game he bought. They agreed and turned to leave. Lulu noticed that the person at the door was the student council president. She asked Huang Zixia to introduce him to his friends. He agreed to her request. After class, Lulu told her friends that her boyfriend would come pick her up. She wouldn't be having lunch with them today. Just as she finished speaking, Huang Zixia appeared in the classroom. She was about to call out to him, but unexpectedly, Huang Zixia didn't notice her and was calling for Qiu Yibai instead. Hearing his name, Qiu Yibai ran over. He told Qiu Yibai that his basketball friends were short of players. As he spoke, he pointed to the people behind him. He also told Qiu Yibai they would provide lunch. Qiu Yibai was curious why he wasn't going. Huang Zixia told him he had a date with his girlfriend and wouldn't be playing with them. After saying this, he greeted his girlfriend standing in the classroom. After they met up, Lulu was curious about his relationship with Qiu Yibai. Huang Zixia explained they were just friends. Lulu then expressed her desire to meet his friends. But he planned to take Lulu to eat delicious food first. Chiu Ibai looked at Dongxing, who was greeting him, and questioned A7 if he hadn't arranged a new role for him. A7 replied that this was his own choice. Nearby, Daqiang saw Chiu Ibai arrive. He came over and handed him a cup of milk tea. He took the milk tea and thanked him. Looking up, he noticed Huang Zixia looking dejected nearby. He quickly asked Daqiang about the situation. It turned out he had an argument with his girlfriend and didn't know how to apologize. Huang Zixia noticed Chiu Ibai. With a sad face, he asked for his help. Seeing this, Chiu Ibai told him to explain slowly, no need to rush. A7 told Chiu Ibai, who was eating breakfast, that Huang Zixia now had a girlfriend. He asked if he wanted to continue or give up. Choosing to give up in the strategy was irreversible. Hearing this, Chiu Ibai waved his hand dismissively and chose to give up. He thought that with one less Huang Zixia, his chances of getting a new role would be higher. Then, A7 asked him to choose today's date location. Chiu Ibai looked at the screen and chose location A, the basketball court. At the basketball court, everyone fell silent after listening to Huang Zixia's tearful story. Chiu Ibai thought for a moment and said this problem was very profound and needed his own contemplation. Dongxing immediately understood. Lulu wanted to get to know Huang Zixia's friend circle, but he not only didn't let her, there were also other women in his friend circle. This made her angry, so Dongxing suggested Huang Zixia bring his girlfriend to hang out together. Everyone would help speak well of him. After saying this, he used a new game to lure Chiu Ibai to his side. He quietly told him to keep his distance in the future to prevent Huang Zixia's girlfriend from misunderstanding. Even if they needed to talk, they should communicate through him. Chiu Ibai agreed. The friends behind them watched the two whispering as if no one else was around, wondering when they would go public with their relationship. Huang Zixia brought his girlfriend Lulu to the court. He introduced her to his three good friends, specifically emphasizing that Chiu Ibai was Dongxing's girlfriend. Seeing Huang Zixia spreading rumors about their relationship to avoid suspicion, the two could only play along. So Chiu Ibai held Dongxing's hand, saying they were going to play basketball first. Lulu was curious why she hadn't heard about their relationship. Huang Zixia explained that because they often argued, they decided not to make it public. Additionally, seeing the game was about to start, the two invited Lulu to join. She said she didn't know how to play, but could cheer from the sidelines. At 5:30 p.m., in the teaching building corridor, Chiu Ibai asked Dongxing why he admitted to their relationship. He said the whole school was speculating about their relationship, and this would prevent Huang Zixia's girlfriend from getting jealous. Dongxing thought to himself, now that Huang Zixia had a girlfriend, why was Chiu Ibai still coming to play with them? Could it be because he comforted him last time, making Chiu Ibai fall for him? This seemed reasonable. After all, he was better at taking care of people than Huang Zixia, and Chiu Ibai thought he was good-looking. Chiu Ibai looked at Dongxing covering his mouth beside him and patted his back to show concern. Seeing Chiu Ibai starting to care for him, Dongxing became more certain that he now liked him. As they walked to the door, they heard Lulu and her friends discussing inside the classroom. They all thought Chiu Ibai was a scheming woman, relying on her looks to mingle with the boys. And as for Dongxing, the student council president, not making their relationship public, there must be something wrong with Chiu Ibai. One black-haired girl even thought if Dongxing dumped him, she might have a chance. Hearing this, Chiu Ibai outside the door was very angry. He rushed into the classroom, saying that even if he dumped Dongxing, it wouldn't be her turn. Dongxing hurriedly hugged Chiu Ibai from behind, covering his mouth with his right hand. He said his girlfriend was too impulsive, but what he said wasn't wrong. After all, he wasn't blind. Under the gaze of the three, he left the classroom hugging Chiu Ibai. The three recalled the scene just now and all expressed fear. Pulled out by Dongxing, Chiu Ibai was furious, saying he should have beaten them all up. Dongxing looked at Chiu Ibai in front of him. He thought, considering how much he likes me, I'll allow him to pursue me. He reached out and patted Chiu Ibai's head, comforting him that those people were just jealous of his excellence, telling him not to take it to heart. Chiu Ibai thought to himself, if he wasn't so weak, Dongxing would be the first one he'd beat up. Chiu Ibai removed the hand on his head, telling the other that he had to leave first, and they'd meet again if fate allowed. After saying this, he turned and left the scene. On the way back, Cho Ibai called out A7, telling it to pause the strategy for now. He planned to upgrade to be level, to see people's choices before starting again. Currently, choosing randomly like this made him look like a flirt in others' eyes. After upgrading, he could focus on pursuing the one he liked. After hearing this, A7 prepared to arrange courses for him. In the library, Cho Ibai was seriously studying. On the basketball court, he was playing basketball with classmates. Huang Zaixiao wiped his sweat with a towel after exercising. He saw his girlfriend, Lu Lulu, confessing to his brother Lu Lei. Lu Lei looked at the stunned Huang Zaixiao in the distance. The onlookers around were also shocked. Huang Zaixiao, heartbroken, cried in Dongxing's arms. Cho Ibai said he'd better leave first. At the skateboard park, Cho Ibai was practicing skateboarding under Guhu's guidance. He noticed Guhu's dyed white hair and wondered why he changed his hair color. Guhu said it made him look more mature and steady. Cho Ibai thought he wasn't an old man, and white hair made him look more like a delinquent. Guhu subtly asked who he was having dinner with tonight. Upon learning it was with Cho Ibai's sister, he smoothly accepted the invitation. In the kitchen, Cho Ibai and his sister were frying rice noodles. Both used pot lids to shield themselves from splashing oil. Seeing this, Guhu quickly entered the kitchen and told Cho Ibai he could cook. Cho Ibai said he wanted to learn cooking himself, but Guhu seemed not to hear, only caring about his sister. He could only watch from the side, feeling very speechless. Cho Ibai admired the dishes Guhu made. Guhu said he could come cook anytime if they wanted. As he spoke, his eyes secretly glanced at the sister beside him. Cho Ibai was discussing with Cho Ibai about buying tickets to go home after the final exams. He said he would go home with her and buy the tickets. Cho Ibai wondered why his sister was going home so early this year. She said she had resigned and planned to rest at home. Hearing this, Guhu immediately stood up, using the excuse of fixing Cho Ibai's skateboard to take him away. Away from the dining table, Guhu asked if he could go to their hometown together. Cho Ibai wondered if he wanted to go there to paint. Without an excuse ready, Guhu went along with it, saying his hometown had good feng shui, suitable for painting. He also specifically said not to mind him. Cho Ibai had no choice but to agree. The TV was broadcasting a celebrity's red carpet appearance. Dongxing received a call from his manager, Sister Senator, after hearing about his parents. Dongxing hung up expressionlessly. Sister Sun told Dongxing that the news of his parents' divorce had just become a hot topic, advising him to avoid paparazzi recently. Huang Zaixiao was packing his luggage while on the phone with Cho Ibai. He told Cho Ibai he wanted to visit his hometown too. Cho Ibai said his home was just a small city, nothing special. Huang Zaixiao mentioned it snows there in winter, and he had never seen snow. Hearing this, Cho Ibai could only agree. The doorbell rang. Huang Zaixiao had to end the call with Cho Ibai. As soon as he opened the door, he saw several boxes of instant noodles at the doorstep. The person who came was Dongxing. Due to the trending news of his parents' divorce, he wanted to come to his place to lay low. He told the other that he had already decided to go to Cho Ibai's home. Hearing this, Dongxing angrily questioned his qualification to go there. Huang Zaixiao said it was for travel, and Guhu would also go. He even invited Dongxing along. Dongxing firmly refused to go. At the airport, Dongxing still followed. A total of 6 people showed up. Dongxing asked Huang Zaixiao why there was an extra person. He said that person was Cho Ibai's fellow townsman. They were neighbors who grew up together, so they were going home together. Just as he finished speaking, a pilot approached the two sisters. Cho Ibai went forward to greet him. He said he would be flying this plane back home, taking his annual leave at the same time. He told Cho Ibai that he had brought gifts for them from his previous flight to Spain. He asked them to visit him at home to get the gifts. Dongxing silently fumed on the side. Seeing it was boarding time, the sister told Cho Ibai, who was still chatting, to get on board with Dongxing. He moved to his side and asked about the identity of that older man. Cho Ibai said he was his sister's classmate, the one who most wanted to become his brother-in-law. Guhu, hearing this, became anxious. Seeing his reaction, Cho Ibai curiously inquired. Unexpectedly, he turned his head away, saying to ignore him and let him fend for himself. On the plane, Cho Ibai remarked how nice it was to travel with his sister, to be able to fly home. Dongxing, sitting next to him, thought to himself that flying was no big deal. In the future, he could take him on flights whenever he wanted. Then he reconsidered, realizing it was the other person pursuing him. Why was he thinking about these things? But taking him on flights would help in his pursuit, so in the future, whatever he wanted to do, he would cooperate. After thinking this through, he nodded to himself. Seeing his mysterious behavior, Cho Ibai told him the hotel was booked and asked him to send the address. He said his father would first take them to drop off their luggage, then they would have dinner together. Hearing he would meet his father, Dongxing thought this was already meeting the parents. He needed to fix his hair well to make a good impression. He quickly took out a small mirror to fix his hair. Cho Ibai, seeing him suddenly act weird again, was speechless. The plane landed, and Cho's father was waiting early at the exit to pick up his precious daughters. As soon as Cho Ibai saw him, he ran over, telling him that his classmates had come to visit and asking if he knew. He said he understood and asked where the classmates were. Cho Ibai pointed behind him. Cho's father looked up and saw 5 boys walking in a line, all greeting him. He looked at his 2 beautiful daughters in front of him, then at the several aggressive-looking boys behind. Suddenly, he had a heart attack and fell straight down. Cho's father, lying on the ground, called his elder daughter over and asked about these people's true identities. If they were all her boyfriends, he wouldn't say anything. He just needed one honest answer from her. Hearing this, Cho Ibai squeezed her father's hand, saying they were all Cho Ibai's classmates and had nothing to do with her. Cho's father is a PE teacher. He and his wife have 2 lovely daughters whom he raised single-handedly. He only hoped that under his care, the 2 daughters could become happy princesses. But the daughters grew up too beautiful, and boys were always trying to talk to them. He had to take stricter protective measures. When his daughter and classmates came home to do homework, he would place a partition in the middle of the table. But no matter how he tried to prevent it, there would always be many boys following his daughter. Cho Ibai discovered that love letters were directly thrown into the trash, which caused gossip among the girls in the class. They also thought her forehead under her bangs was wide and protruding. Cho Ibai's friends heard their gossip and went to confront them. Those people thought she was just pretending to be nice. Cho Ibai, standing nearby, took out her handmade scissors and walked up to the gossipers. She grabbed her own bangs and cut them off directly, then threw the hair in their faces. Cho Ibai told them that no matter what, she was still prettier than them. She said they were just ugly troublemakers, then left. When Cho's father saw his daughter return home with messy bangs, he thought she had been bullied at school. He hugged his daughter and cried. She said she didn't like bangs or the hairstyle he gave her, and told him not to worry about her hairstyle. When Cho Ibai turned 18, she decided to ride a motorcycle to university with her friends. Only then did Cho's father realize that his daughter hadn't entered puberty, but had become a queen. Cho's father looked at his younger daughter who was eating candy and vowed to raise her as a princess. When Cho Ibai was young, there were also many boys around her. Cho's father thought she ignored these boys, but she said she had accepted them all. Cho's father looked at his younger daughter in shock and angrily questioned why she had accepted their confessions. Unexpectedly, his daughter said she had accepted their challenges and beat them all thoroughly. After that, every day, Cho Ibai would fight with her classmates before coming home. Until one day, she came home with short hair because long hair interfered with her fighting. Cho's father hugged his daughter and cried again, saying he would enroll her in a dance class. To his surprise, the next day his daughter came back with a pair of boxing gloves. It turned out the boxing coach thought she had talent and transferred her to that class. Cho's father looked at his tomboy daughter and had another heart attack. The flashback ended. In the car, everyone was discussing what to eat for dinner. Cho Ibai said her father's cooking was very good. Others said they could help. Cho's father could only cry secretly. After all, daughters grow up. Dongxi noticed something was wrong with Cho's father and worried about his health. He asked Cho Ibai if they should go to the hospital. She said he might have been scared by his hairstyle, triggering his old problem. Hearing this, Dongxin quickly changed his hairstyle, pulling out a 7's white hair as a backdrop, saying his hair was uglier. A 7 couldn't argue and could only feel sad alone. Huang Zixia and Cho Ibai quickly comforted him. The day before returning to their hometown, Dongxin, Cho Ibai, and Huang Zixia were buying winter down jackets. Huang Zixia suggested they could buy matching clothes as brothers. Cho Ibai thought it was a good idea, so he picked up a light blue down jacket and tried it on, saying this one was fine. He said they only needed to buy 2 for the 3 of them. The other 2 were curious about the reason. Then he made Dongxin put on the jacket and stuffed Cho Ibai inside Dongxin's jacket, zipping it up. He said they fit perfectly in one jacket. The 2 wearing one jacket looked at each other, understanding immediately. One person trapped Huang Zixia, who was trying to escape, while the other kicked his butt. Fists wrapped in bandages were punching a sandbag. A woman with a fierce gaze was practicing boxing. Chiyo Ibai changed into slippers and ran into the room to find her mother. Chiyo's mother saw her daughter return and stopped exercising. She patted her shoulder and told her to take her classmates to eat first. The other three also changed into slippers and came in, all greeting Chiyo's mother. Seeing they were all boys, she asked her daughter if these boys were her friends or boyfriends. Chiyo Ibai said they were all her friends. After dinner, everyone helped wash the dishes. Chiyo's mother said they didn't need to help and told them to go rest. It started raining heavily outside. Chiyo Ibai said that on such a cold day, the rain would freeze on the roads. Chiyo's mother also thought it would be unsafe to go to the hotel at this time. She suggested Chiyo Ibai let her classmates sleep in her room and she could sleep with her sister. When Chiyo's father, who was washing dishes, heard this, he crushed the plate in his hand. Dongxing, who was helping with the dishes, nervously looked at him with concern. The other man's face darkened, telling him not to worry. Chiyo Ibai and Huang Zixia decided to watch a horror movie together. Among the 5 people watching the movie, only Dongxing was afraid of ghosts. Chiyo Ibai, sitting next to him, noticed his discomfort and decided to tease him a bit. She reached her hand behind Dongxing's back and suddenly poked him, causing him to jump up in fright. The others silently watched Dongxing stand up. He looked at Chiyo Ibai, who was giggling, and understood who was playing tricks. He pinched Chiyo Ibai's face with his hand, but she didn't back down. She grabbed Dongxing's hair directly. Neither of them yielded, and they started wrestling. The other 3 quietly moved away. They wrestled from the edge of the sofa onto the sofa itself, until Dongxing was pinned down on the sofa. Both of their faces turned red as they looked at each other. Chiyo Ibai released her grip on his hair, sat up with her back to Dongxing, saying she couldn't be bothered to argue with him anymore. Dongxing, with a red face, glanced at her slightly reddened ears, then quietly sat down beside her. As he sat down, his hand touched Chiyo Ibai's hand. They both flinched at the contact. Dongxing, blushing, wondered if he should move his hand away, but thought moving it would make him seem guilty. So their hands remained together throughout the entire movie. Chiyo Ibai lay in bed, recalling everything that had just happened. She covered her flushed face with the blanket, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. A 7 told her that her heart rate was above normal, wondering if she had fallen in love with Dongxing. But Chiyo Ibai covered her head with the blanket, telling him to shut up. Seeing this, A7 decided not to bother her further. At this moment, he noticed Chiyo Ibai next to Chiyo Ibai. He hovered above her, gazing at her sleeping face. Then he cupped her face with both hands. Just then, Chiyo Ibai's phone under her pillow vibrated. She reached for it and answered the call. A familiar voice came from the other end of the phone. Chiyo Ibai recognized it as Lu Bingshu's voice. He told her he was downstairs and asked her to look out the window. Chiyo Ibai got up and looked out the window. She could see someone standing downstairs. The person on the phone asked her to come down. Chiyo Ibai closed the window, saying it was dark and cold now, and she didn't want to go down. Lu Bingshu said he came to find her right after getting off the plane, and he had to rehearse for the TV station's New Year's Eve show in the morning. He also brought her spicy rabbit heads. Chiyo Ibai swallowed upon hearing this. In another room, Dongxing wasn't sleeping either. He found Chiyo Ibai's yearbook by the window and started flipping through it. The first photo was a group shot of her with a male student. In the photo, Chiyo Ibai had short hair, looking like a boy. The boy next to her had his arm around her shoulder. They looked very close. Dongxing's mood soured as he looked. How could such an ugly boy be so close to her? He continued flipping and found 2 pages stuck together. He decided to find a small knife to open the pages and see what was inside. As he bent down to get the pencil case by the window, he saw Chiyo Ibai with a boy. As soon as they met, Lu Bingshu picked her up, saying she was too light now and wondering if she hadn't been eating properly. Chiyo Ibai asked him to put her down, saying there should be boundaries between men and women. Lu Bingshu put her down, saying girls were meant to be hugged. But Chiyo Ibai wasn't interested and asked him to hand over the rabbit heads. Hearing this, he sadly said he couldn't get Chiyo Ibai's affection. After hearing his complaint, Chiyo Ibai thought to herself that she had heard about it before. But at that time, A7 had scheduled her courses too tightly, so she didn't pay attention. However, she still refuted him, saying that he hadn't actively contacted her since his debut. Lu Bingshu said that he had previously asked Glasses about her classroom, planning to give her a surprise, but she wasn't there that day. Then he asked her if she remembered what he said on the playground in their senior year. Chiyo Ibai looked confused upon hearing this. Just as Lu Bingshu was about to repeat himself, Dongxing, who had rushed down, interrupted. After the introduction, they shook hands and greeted each other, both guessing the other's true position in Chiu Ibai's heart. Dongxing pinched Chiu Ibai's face, saying that now they should be friendly friends. She also grabbed his hair, agreeing with his statement. At this moment, Lu Bingshu's phone rang. He turned away to answer the call, and his manager's loud shout came from the phone. The manager questioned why he had sneaked out of the hotel in the middle of the night and how they would handle it if paparazzi caught him. Lu Bingshu said he just went home for a while and would return to the hotel immediately. After saying this, he turned and called out to Chiu Ibai, who was wrestling with Dongxing, telling her he had to leave soon. He told her to keep the rabbit heads safe, along with the New Year's Eve gala tickets in the box. As he left, he reminded her to come watch his performance, and Chiu Ibai agreed. After saying goodbye, Chiu Ibai turned and went upstairs, not wanting to worry her sister. Dongxing said he had seen Lu Bingshu in her yearbook and thought her ex-boyfriend was really ugly. Chiu Ibai refuted, saying her brother was now a big star, and it was Dongxing's greasy middle-parted hair that was ugly. Hearing this, Dongxing immediately exploded. He locked her neck with his arm, telling her to say it again. Chiu Ibai didn't back down either, putting her cold hands on his neck. Dongxing, feeling the cold, let go of her. Chiu Ibai immediately ran away. In a car not far away, the assistant was curious about the identity of the boy next to Chiu Ibai. Lu Bingshu said that person wasn't her boyfriend. With her personality, it was easy for her to get along with boys, and Glasses also knew she didn't have a boyfriend. The assistant said that his current job didn't allow him to be in a relationship. Lu Bingshu didn't answer directly, but asked him to drive back to the hotel. The two of them returned home, playfully fighting all the way. They stopped as soon as they entered the door. Dongxing held Chiu Ibai back, saying he had something to give her. Then he took out a preheated hand warmer. Chiu Ibai was curious how a southerner like him would prepare a hand warmer. Dongxing directly stuffed the hand warmer into her arms, telling her to sleep well, then closed the door. At this moment, a selection box popped up in front of Chiu Ibai, asking if she was willing to make Lu Bingshu a new target for her strategy. Dongxing returned to his room and immediately took out his phone to search for information about Lu Bingshu. He saw that the other was a newly debuted idol. Him coming out so late to find Chiu Ibai likely meant he liked her. Dongxing couldn't let this person interfere with his pursuit that he had just accepted. Chiu Ibai quietly entered the room, saw her sister still sleeping, and thought she had fallen asleep again. Thinking she could enjoy the rabbit head alone, she quietly left the room again. Chiu Ibai brought the rabbit head to the living room. Looking up, she found Dongxing studying in the living room with a desk lamp on. The dim light shone on his face. Dongxing was wearing glasses and reading intently. Chiu Ibai thought he was crazy, but A7 said this was the difference between people. Chiu Ibai said she could shorten this gap. She brought the rabbit heads to Dongxing's side and invited him to eat together. Just as Dongxing was about to refuse, Chiu Ibai took out a rabbit head and stuffed it into his mouth. Seeing her eating happily and saying she wouldn't leave any for him, Dongxing's competitive spirit kicked in. He also took off his glasses and started eating. Soon they finished all the rabbit heads. Chiu Ibai told Dongxing to go to sleep first, saying she would clean up. Unexpectedly, he started cleaning up directly and said he would continue studying. Chiu Ibai was curious why Dongxing, who always ranked first, would worry about getting into graduate school. He sighed and said this was far from enough. Hearing this, Chiu Ibai suddenly felt stupid and lazy. She asked him for an English dictionary, saying she also wanted to study hard. Under the cover of the dictionary, she secretly observed Dongxing studying seriously. Seeing him wearing glasses and studying diligently, looking handsome, she thought that if she didn't know his arrogant nature, she would definitely consider him her idol. When dawn broke, Chiu Ibai ran to her room to wake up the boys. As soon as the door opened, she found they had all finished washing up and were gathered around looking at her photo album. Chiu Ibai was shocked, wondering how her photo album ended up in their hands. Huang Zixia said Chiu's mother had given it to them. Chiu Ibai immediately asked him to return the album, but he didn't listen. He raised the album to avoid her pursuit. Chiu Ibai noticed her yearbook by the window and suggested Huang Zixia look at her yearbook instead of her childhood photos. He still didn't listen, so Chiu Ibai casually threw away the yearbook and continued trying to grab the album from his hands. The yearbook fell at Dongxing's feet, and a small note hidden in its inner layer slipped out. He picked up the note and saw it was Lu Bingshu's confession to Qiu Yibai. Qiu Yibai and Huang Zixia were still fighting over the photo album. Dongxing read the note silently and put it back. He pinned Huang Zixia down on the bed, took out his phone to call Qiu's grandfather, telling him he would bring many classmates to visit. Qiu's grandfather said he would dig winter bamboo shoots for them. Qiu Yibai told her grandfather not to bother, saying they could handle digging the shoots themselves since all her classmates were boys. She said they could help with any household issues. The implicated Gu Hai and Dongxing looked at each other in bewilderment. Qiu's grandfather, wearing rain boots and a thin padded jacket, waited for his granddaughters to arrive. He saw 3 boys behind them and greeted them. He said they were all Qiu Yibai's boyfriends, and they played along with his words. The 3 boys greeted Qiu's grandfather. He held a hoe and said he would take them to the mountain to dig bamboo shoots. Gu Hai was responsible for digging shoots, Huang Zixia for catching chickens, and Dongxing for cooking. In the evening, they all slept on the big Kong bed. After learning the location of the toilet, Dongxing opened the door and looked at the pitch black outside, shivering. So he turned on his phone's flashlight and fumbled for the light switch on the wall. Unexpectedly, Qiu Yibai called out to him from behind, startling him so much that he pushed her into the water vat. Seeing Qiu Yibai lying in the water vat, Dongxing quickly went forward to lift her out, wrapping her in his own clothes. Qiu Yibai said all her clothes were wet. Dongxing said this was even more reason to stay close, to prevent catching a cold from the wind. Qiu Yibai had no choice but to lean against Dongxing's chest, placing her hands on his shoulders. They returned to the room, and Qiu Yibai had changed her clothes. Dongxing wondered why she wasn't drying her hair. Qiu Yibai said the socket was loose and needed someone to hold it for the hairdryer to work. Dongxing covered his mouth and laughed, telling her to hold the plug while he would help dry her hair. After all, it was his fault that she fell into the water. Dongxing helped dry the ends of Qiu Yibai's hair. Seeing her bangs were still wet, he grabbed them and blew hard at her forehead. Just then, the power went out. Qiu Yibai said this was normal. Surely the house's circuit breaker had tripped. They could have her grandfather fix it first thing in the morning. Dongxing worried she might catch a cold if her hair wasn't fully dried. She suggested they could go to the fire room to dry her hair by the stove. Dongxing looked at the hole in the roof and remarked that the fire room was nice, with a skylight to see the stars. Qiu Yibai told him they needed to repair that broken roof tomorrow. Seeing Qiu Yibai living her life, Dongxing said he had already learned how to live today and could give it a try. Qiu Yibai looked at Dongxing living in front of her and said he was really a jinx, always having bad luck tonight. Dongxing built the fire and was about to call Qiu Yibai to warm up, but when he turned around, he found she had already fallen asleep. He took off his own padded jacket and covered her with it, then sat down beside her, letting her head rest on his shoulder. Dongxing played with Qiu Yibai's hair, saying if she wanted to pursue him, she had to be single-minded. If he found out Qiu Yibai had any involvement with Lu Bingshu, he definitely wouldn't let her off. Guhu noticed Dongxing hadn't returned from the bathroom and worried he might have fallen in, so he decided to go look for him. He fumbled around and found the outside light was broken. Looking up, he saw Qiu Yibai alone in the living room. Curious why she wasn't sleeping, she said she couldn't sleep and planned to watch a horror movie to help. Guhu immediately said he couldn't sleep either and wanted to join her. Seeing her agree, Gu sat down beside her. Qiu Yibai glanced at him and noticed he had ear piercings. Guhu blushed and said he used to wear earrings, but took them out for military training. They gazed at each other, getting closer. Guhu tilted his head, about to kiss Qiu Yibai. She directly covered his mouth, saying her actions might have given him the wrong idea. Just as Guhu was about to confess, Qiu Yibai interrupted him. She pointed out that he was only 18 while she was already 29. After saying this, she turned and left. Dawn broke. Qiu Yibai, curled up in the fire room, woke up. She found herself leaning on Dongxing's shoulder. Opening her eyes, she could see his thick eyelashes and was about to reach out to pluck them. At that moment, Dongxing opened his eyes. Qiu Yibai was caught red-handed. Hearing she wanted to pluck his eyelashes, he pressed her head down and pinched her face. Huang Zixia came in from outside, remarking they were up early. He noticed the floral padded jacket on Qiu Yibai. He thought it had a very local flavor. Qiu Yibai offered to get him one too, but Huang Zixia refused, thinking it would be inconvenient for work. Huang Zixia arranged the work for the 3 of them, planning to repair the roof together. Chiu Ibai insisted on helping and climbed up the ladder. Suddenly, there was a loud noise. Startled, Chiu Ibai slipped and her body tilted backward. Dongxing rushed forward to catch the falling Chiu Ibai. It turned out A7 was forcibly upgrading its system. Now unable to control herself, Chiu Ibai grabbed Dongxing's neck as instructed by A7. Dongxing blushed, looking at Chiu Ibai hanging on him. She thought if she didn't get off him soon, A7 might explode. She buried her head in Dongxing's chest again to ask A7 about the situation. It reported being at 3%. Chiu Ibai quickly lifted her head, thinking it would be better to just explode. Dongxing blushed, thinking she was about to kiss him. She wasn't ready yet. Snowflakes were falling all around. Chiu Ibai looked at the snowflakes on Dongxing's hair and told him it was snowing now. He said he had experienced snow many times before, but had never looked forward to it as much as now. He was happy to have so many people to play in the snow with. Dongxing looked at Chiu Ibai, holding snowflakes in her hands, and thought, doesn't she mean she's happy to be with him? He began to feel full of anticipation for life. He thought to himself that this was not good. He was about to be won over by her. Thinking of this, his face turned even redder. Just then, Chiu Ibai took out her phone and took a picture of the two hugging. She told them it was snowing. Grandpa Chiu was worried it might be unsafe, so they didn't need to fix the roof now. In a moment, snowflakes covered the entire world. Everything was white everywhere. Chiu Ibai and Huang Zixia took out wooden boards to compete in skiing. Chiu Ibai was also pulled in to play with them. Huang Zixia walked up to her and told her that he and Dongxing had a bet on which sister was better at skiing, and he was supporting her. Hearing this, Chiu Ibai's competitive spirit was inexplicably ignited. So on the first day, they skied together. On the second day, they built snowmen. On the third day, they had a snowball fight. On the fourth day, which was Little New Year's Eve, Chiu Ibai packed her things and said she wanted to go back. Chiu Ibai told her that the road down the mountain was buried in snow. It would have to wait until tomorrow to be cleared. Chiu Ibai was angry. She finally had a ticket for Little New Year's Eve, but now she couldn't use it. Dongxing, eating a sweet potato, thought that if she was willing, he could even get tickets for the Spring Festival Gala. Huang Zixia, knowing they couldn't go back tonight, suggested they could explore the abandoned house on the back mountain. Chiu and Huang immediately agreed, setting the plan for tonight. At night, the five of them arrived in front of the abandoned house. Huang Zixia said the house was very big and suggested they split into two teams. The Chiu sisters and Dongxing in one team, himself and Guhu in another. But this proposal was rejected by Guhu. In the end, Guhu and Dongxing were in one team, Chiu Ibai and Huang Zixia in another. After dividing into teams, they entered the house separately. Chiu Ibai saw Dongxing looking pale and took his hand. She said she would take care of him. Chiu Ibai thought about taking care of Dongxing like a father and felt happy inside. Dongxing blushed, afraid she was playing tricks, so he held her hand tightly. Guhu, following behind them, thought that if he had known he'd be the third wheel, he wouldn't have objected to the first grouping. Chiu Ibai's phone suddenly rang. She took it out and saw it was a call from Lu Bingshu. She answered the phone. Lu Bingshu's excited voice came through. He had just finished performing and come off stage. He wanted to share the joy of his first time on a big stage with the person he liked. Chiu Ibai honestly told him that she was stuck at her grandfather's house due to heavy snow and couldn't see the performance. Lu Bingshu was silent at first, then comforted her instead, saying there would be opportunities in the future and reminding her not to forget to watch TV. Just as Chiu Ibai was about to agree, Huang Zixia suddenly appeared from somewhere behind her, startling her and causing her to drop her phone. The thing she was holding in her hand also showed a virtual image due to the scare. Chiu Ibai scolded Huang Zixia, telling him not to mess around. He said he just wanted to joke with the little couple. This was also heard by Lu Bingshu on the other end of the phone. Before he could think about it further, he was taken away by his assistant for an interview.